أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله أوله بلا أول كان قبله وآخره بلا آخر يكون بعده الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا حبيب إله رب العالمين القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وعليه الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين سيما ببقية الله العظم بقية الله خير لكم إن كنتم مؤمنين ولعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في محكمه كتابه المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الإنسان إنك كادح إلى ربك كدحا فملاقيه أيضا يقول في محكم كتابه المجيد في سورة العنكبوت بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من كان يرجو لقاء الله فإن أجل الله لآت وهو السميع العليم صدق الله العلي العظيم. Recite one salawat for me, please.
اللهم صل على محمد.
As we are blessed with the occasion of commemorating the martyrdom of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, it's an honor and blessing, and we mentioned last night for some of our brothers and sisters who were not present that the majalis, the gathering that we have, is nothing but a reflection of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of the tears that flow in our eyes, and tear as in phenomena, as in reality, have the element of attracting mercy. When a child cries, automatically the heart melts. So Imam Hussain alayhi salam is the medium, is the vehicle of mercy. So when Imam Hussain is saying that Ana qatilul abara, as we cite in Ziyarat Arba'in, and also he himself has said that I have been killed for tears, that means I have been killed for tears, meaning that he is a medium for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through our tears, that Allah will have mercy upon us. There is another interpretation which I didn't mention last night, and that has been the famous interpretation of many of the scholars, of the Zakirs, is that Ana qatilul abara means, in Urdu I would say, Mujhe rula kar mara gaya hai, meaning that I have been made to cry so much, and through this, while I was crying, they have killed me. That is an interpretation. However, the deeper interpretation that we find by Ayatollah Sa'adat Parvar, whose book I had yesterday as in reference, he points out to that. The other thing that we could ponder and reflect here is that this tears that is coming must have the element of understanding the purpose of sacrifice of Imam Hussain. It should not be mere tears, only tears. Nevertheless, we cannot compare crying with namaz and no, we cannot. It is wrong to compare that. Is crying afzal or namaz afzal or this afzal or that. No. There are certain mustahab ibadat that are more afzal than wajib. There is no doubt about it. For example, salam. Giving salam is mustahab and greater sawab, but the jawab of salam is wajib but less sawab. So we just can't get into this comparing things, So therefore, azadari and the ahmiyat of azadari, the importance of crying, it's in its place, that we cannot imagine that how much of reward and what really happens in the whole replay of the event of Karbala in our life every year. It's a revolution in itself. not just in terms of our thinking, in terms of our understanding. I mean, no wonder Imam Khomeini have said that Islam remains because of Majalis of Baba Abdullah Hussain. So when a scholar who is a mujtahid, who is a marja, who have reached to that level, I mean, he is saying that is the azadari of Imam Hussain by which Islam have remained. So where do we stand, or how can we be comparing these things? So therefore, azadari and the importance of it, the importance of tears that flows, even if that be according to the hadith that it is lesser than the wing of a mosquito, the sins of the past and the future are forgiven. Because it brings that revolution within us, that the future is safeguarded with that revolution and our past is forgiven. So therefore, when we are attending and when we are coming, I mean, we should really haste. It is like hayya ala salah. Haste towards salah. So we as a believer of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, we as some who have the marifat and understanding and the knowledge of what majlis of Imam Hussain alayhi salam is, that we should really haste and make ourselves sure that we are here, and it begins on time. It starts on time. A time is given. If timings have no ahmiyat and no importance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wouldn't have said, namaz you recite at this time and you don't recite at this time. Hajj you go on that time, you don't go on that time. Maidan Arafah you stay only this much. If you stay more, you have to give kafara. I mean, if there was no importance of time, Allah wouldn't have emphasized that. Then, on emphasis, He says that praying on time, how important that is. So therefore, when a time is fixed, one should really abide, because see, time as a phenomena, as a reality, have a very divine aspect. Nazm. And who is Nazim? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Nazim, the organizer, the ultimate controller, who organizes things, it's Allah. So when I'm disrespectful of time, it really ends up being disrespectful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because al-izzatu lillah wa li rasuli wa lil mu'mineen. So if I disrespect a mu'min, I'm really disrespecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of it. This ayat doesn't say a mu'min who is, mashallah, on the safi awwal mu'min. No, it's mu'min. So every mu'min, their honor and their dignity is respectful. So therefore, when I'm stressing that, it goes there. So on the same token, I would be critical enough to say that if we disrespect the nazm and the order that it is there, and particularly in regards to the religious order, religious timings that it is there. Obviously, I want to go on Arafah, I want to do Hajj in Muharram. That's disrespectful. We can't do that. So when we are disrespecting, the time and order of Allah, where there's commandments such as Hajj and Namaz and all that, obviously it's very clear. But relatively speaking, the timings of Azadari and Majlis is also, on a relative level, it has to do with Husayniyah, it has to do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a particular reason that it is there for. So therefore, I should be respectful towards that, and I should haste towards it. I mean, I may not be able to understand what it's been said, but just because I've been respectful to the order and time, I will get the reward for it. And I will be blessed with it. Obviously, all of these things, I know I am the one I'm addressing myself in the first, and then, all the brothers and sisters, inshallah. For the salamati, for the health, for the success and protection of all the azadar of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, one loud salawat, please. The topic that we have chosen for the nights to be discussed is meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is liqa. the verse that I recited, Surah Inshiqaq, Ya ayyuhal insan innaka kadihun ila rabbika kadhan famulaqi. For mulaqat, you are on a journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya ayyuhal insan, not only Muslims. So every human being, regardless of him being a Muslim or a non-Muslim, he is on a journey to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this journey to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have set criteria, set conditions. It's step by step, and it unfolds, and it prepares us for this meeting to take place. Death is one of that first step towards meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then you have barzakh, then you have day of judgment itself, raising of the grave, then you have day of judgment itself, then you have, eventually, the entrance into the Jannah and the Pul Sirat, so on. So these are all stages. And obviously for this meeting to take place, there are two things that is required. One is the development of our character, our soul, so that we have the ability to meet, regardless we want to or we don't want to. Ya ayyuhal insan innaka kadihun ila rabbika. Whether voluntarily, whether I want to or I don't want to, I will be. Whether in barzakh I will be prepared, or on the day of judgment, for example, the refining and the preparation will take place, or on the Pul Sirat. So it's all marahil. These are all stages of meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So obviously the best way would be the voluntary meeting of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that period is fixed indeed. And that could be perhaps even before a person reaches for that sort of mulaqat, which is on the day of judgment to take place. He could have that here. That's why it says that Man kana yarju liqa Allah, those who desire to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَإِنَّ أَجَلَ اللَّهِ لَآتٍ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. Basically, a fixed period. فَإِنَّ أَجَلَ اللَّهِ, that is fixed. Now, some of the interpreters have interpreted this ajal as death. Some of them have interpreted it as time. So there's a fixed time to meet Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Sami, is all hearing, and He knows. This chemistry of names of Allah is very important. Sami and Alim. You have awliya, you have saints, you have these high great figures, for example, Khaja Ajmeri, these Sufis, Maulana Rumi and all that. They were in compassion and love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They wanted to, Allah was their beloved. They wanted to meet them, right? So, and every soul that refines itself, that purifies itself, is geared towards spirituality, he wants to meet Allah. That's the ecstasy, that's the beloved. So he wants to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wants to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wants to see the beauty of God. So here the exegists have explained this verse as Allah is Sami and Alim as well, in all-knowing. So Allah knows the intention of that individual, of that person who is yearning for God in the middle of the night. He's listening. But at the same time, He knows whether he's ready to meet me or not. The possibility exists that if that meeting takes place, he could just diffuse. He could, vanish and disappear. And that's what happened with Hammam, the Sahabi of Amirul Mu'mineen, Khutb Hammam in Nahjul Balagha. When Amirul Mu'mineen was explaining the qualities of the Muttaqeen, at the end and after Amirul Mu'mineen have been forced by Hammam many times, many occasions, Amirul Mu'mineen said, no. But he insisted, and they went in the wilderness, and Amirul Mu'mineen recited that khutbah, Muttaqeen. At the end of it, he did a loud cry was heard, and Hammam was no longer in this dunya. So, that meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes place, that time is fixed, and Allah knows that when is that right time, and He provides that, even in this dunya as well. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So we said two things. One, for that meeting to take place, one is that preparation of the soul and self, and the other is that stage, is that ground. Now, why are we discussing this? In what relation we are discussing this? We are discussing this in order to really understand Imam Hussein and the Ashab of Imam Hussein, how they were and what they were. That they really yearn. فَتَمَنَّوُا الْمَوْتَ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. You know, if you are the truthful ones, desire death. That's how John, the black slave of Abu Zar, was. He tears open his shirt and he goes into the battlefield. And they say that, oh John, have you gone crazy? They said, yes, I am crazy in love of Hussein. That's the desire of meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which they had. So therefore, that's why we are looking into it. That's why we are discussing it. And we are trying to find out that what were the elements in them that we could take lesson from, that we could bring into our life, that this meeting to take place. One thing is for sure, and that we have to keep that in mind. And this point which I'm mentioning is the essence of imamat. You know, and I had mentioned this earlier as well in the previous majlis. The one who orchestrated, the one who did that fusion and brought the ashab of Imam Hussein, his companions, and was responsible for them to become the awliya Allah wa ahibba'u, assalamu alayka awliya Allah wa ahibba'u, was no one but Hussein, was no one but the Imam. In Ziyarat al-Rajabiyya we recite that it is for them to change my destiny. Tafweed wa ta'weez, change and being destined is through their hands. As they say, بِيَدِهِ رُزِقَ الْوَرَى. You know, the dua that we have, that it is through the hand of the Imam that the rizq, ruziq al-wara, is being distributed. We are not doing shirk here. It is vertical. Izzatul lillah wa li rasul wa lil mu'mineen. It's that. They are the medium. It is very natural. When the sun will come, it will be day. So therefore the sun have to rise for it to be day. So for the distribution of that mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have to go through a medium, through a channel, and that is the Imams. And that is the Ahl Bayt alayhim salam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And we've been blessed, being honored, born in such a school of thought, such a family that that believes in this reality of imamat. You know, it is automatically given. Now we have to develop that. We have to develop that marifat and that understanding in the imams, that they could do it and they have that power and they have done it. Examples in every imam's life we could find. More in Imam Hussein's. As we said Hur, as we said Wahab, as we said Zuhair, all of them. It is the Imam who pulled them. At the same time, they were lovers of the Imam, Ubaidullah ibn Hurr Jofi. For who were Imam Hussein? He himself went in the tent of Ubaidullah. And he said, Ubaidullah, what is your stand? I said, Yabna Rasulullah, I love you. Yabna Rasulullah, I know you. Yabna Rasulullah, I see the noor on your face as well. But here's my horse and here's my sword, please. Everything, but what is lacking and what is missing is that true marifat and understanding of who an imam is. Examples in the 6th Imam's time about that tanur, that oven and what happened and all that. I don't want to take time, and we all know that. So therefore, we have to know for sure, for this process of meeting, liqa'ullah, to take place, for that to happen is that imam, that assistance and that help from the imam is very much required. In today Dua Nutba we recite that, as there's a verse in the Quran, "Yujibu muttarra idha da'a wa yakshafu su." It is through the istirab, the person who is in istirab is focused towards that Imam. Where are you? And then right after that, who is the sabab, who is the reason of muttasil, of connection of the earth with the heaven? After that verse, it is that. So that is the Imam. That is Imamat. So now, for this meeting to take place, we said two things. One is, I have to be prepared. And for me to be prepared, you have once again that Imam, the phenomena and the reality and the truth of Imamat. And that's what is happening right now. Right as we speak, there's this yearning and the desire of being with the Imam. It's really shedding all of our faults and limitations that we have. Although we might, after we stepped, we go back to our sort of personalities and characters that we have developed, but still something have gone down. Still there is that positive energy there, that's how things happen. That's how gradually we improve. And that's natural. So now, that's one preparation. The other is the stage. And that stage is really the Day of Judgment itself, which is a new creation, which is a new body, which is a new reality altogether for that meeting to take place. That ultimate meeting, which is the Day of Judgment, which is Qiyamah. It's like a caterpillar. Look at the caterpillar and the stages of that. That cocoon and that caterpillar, and then you have that butterfly, which is a khalqan jadid, which is completely a new creation altogether. If a person just looks at the caterpillar, he will say it's impossible that it could be a beautiful butterfly like that. But it is that very caterpillar which is that beautiful butterfly. So therefore, it is that refining and gradual process for that meeting to take place. One is in ourselves, and the other is the creation itself. That's why Qiyamah is there. For the purpose of Qiyamah is that. Everything will cease to exist, will not be destroyed. Everything, the souls will cease to exist. Cease in the sense that they will go in a state of coma. Because these souls do not have the capacity and ability to really see what's the change taking place and how is the stage set up. They don't have it. But as that verse says, inshallah, I'll bring the exact reference of this verse tomorrow. The verse says, with the permission of God, everything will cease to exist except few souls who Allah desires to. And our Imam points out these are no one but Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, who have the ability and capacity to really see that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revives and creates that stage of Day of Judgment. So it's a refining process, and one have to be aware of it. And the one who is aware of it, he is prepared for it. Before any surgery, the doctor explains you every possibility that it has, and gives you, this is what will happen, this is what will happen, this is to be expected. This will not make us run away from it. We have to go through it. When we know it, we are prepared and ready for it. We have that courage and strength to really come out of it. So therefore, when we are talking about death, when we are talking about barzakh, when we are talking about Day of Judgment, how dreadful and how scary it is really increasing of our knowledge and a preparation for it. Why people are afraid of death, hadith? It is because they are ghafil, they are unaware of it. That's why they are afraid of it. As they say that the greatest enemy of man is his ignorance itself. The hadith, once again, this is also hadith. The greatest enemy of man is his ignorance. Why is it that we find Shia's killing taking place? Because they are ignorant of the fact of who Shias really are. Their jahal is leading them to do that. We're not the Khawarijites, Khawarij jahil. We're not jahil. We're not those people who raised the Quran on the spears. They said, oh, we cannot be with Ali at the time. Where they're not jahil. So therefore man is the enemy of his ignorance. The more we have knowledge, the more we will be ready, prepared, and moving in the right direction. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And it will be very, how should I say, unfair, and it will be a very sorrowful situation that we have the book, which is the Quran, we have the Ahl Bayt, and still we did not inquire about it, something that has to come. So when we have the Quran, when we have the Ahl Bayt and what they are informing us in regards to that, so we really need to have that knowledge and understanding. So if we don't do that, we'll be more in trouble, because somewhere or the other, voluntarily or involuntarily, we have to go through that. So when we pay attention to how death is depicted, because that is I'm looking at the first marhala, or the first step towards this journey, innaka qadim ala rabbika qadhan, for that mulaqat to take place. We find وَجَاءَتْ سَكَرَةُ الْمَوْتِ بِالْحَقِّ كَذَلِكَ مَا كُنْتُم مِّنْهُ تَهِيدٌ. Verse of the Quran, it says that it will come. Ja'at. Sakara is really that state of limbo, that state of forgetfulness. And this sakarat is also used in regards to the day of judgment. The verse says that when they will be raised, on the day of judgment, they will be in this, those who are the kuffar, those who are the munafiqeen and the mushrikeen, they will be in the state of big confusion, in the state of limbo. Like as if they are drunk, as if they don't know what's going on, in a state of confusion. That is sort of, that's called sakarat. Because they don't know what's going on. They have no clue, but it is happening. So the same word or the same term is used in regards to death as well. That this is something that will happen. It will happen. Al-maut bil-haq. There is no denial in regards to death. But we have to be like those who are the followers of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. What did Hazrat Ali Akbar alayhi salam say? When the father had that dream as he was on the mount of the horse going towards Karbala, he says, after waking up from the dream, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Because this ayat is used at the time of musibat. Hazrat Ali Akbar asked him that, oh father, why at this time? He says that I had a vision in which I saw that the caravan is moving and death is behind this caravan. Then Hazrat Ali Akbar says, what difference does that make? Whether we go towards death or death comes towards us. So this philosophy and this understanding rips away the sakarat altogether. It just destroys it completely. So here, this is something that is supposed to happen, will happen. And minhu tahid, it is something that you have ran away from it. No matter in which place a person goes, there's a story in Maulana Rumi, he mentions a story about a person who was afraid of death. And he just before that man comes to Hazrat Musa, Israel comes there and he says, Min ayn, where are you going, Israel? He says, I'm going to India, Hind, to India to take the soul of a person. He said, oh, okay, fine. Then right after he goes, then comes a person who says, I saw Israel and he's after me, oh Musa, help me and send me with your mujiza to Hind. So Musa said, okay, fine, if you want to go in, I'll send you. But Israel had already planned there that he has to take roof from him. So no matter where a person runs, as the Quran says, whether in kuntum fi buruj, if you are in this tower, in towers, and no matter where you are, فَتَمَنَّوُا الْمَوْتَ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. So therefore the death will come, but if a person who is sadiq, he will do tamanna. Death to me is sweeter than honey, Hazrat Qasim alayhi salam. Death to me is much more desireful than the breast of the mother, Amirul Mu'mineen, like for a child, for a baby. All his wujud and existence for that baby is that milk. All he wants is that. So Amirul Mu'mineen is saying that death to me is like that. Because this world is very limited. This world cannot manifest and show the divine beauties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are beauties, no doubt. But these beauties are in its limited form because of the setup. Because the things rotten here. It's natural and it happens. So therefore a person might enjoy a pleasant meal, but at the same time it is limited. It could bring about many problems, and it does. Cholesterol, so on and so forth. But the truth and reality of that beauty and taste and pleasure has its own given reality and truth to it. That is in the level of barzakh and on that level, which is immaterial. So therefore, a person wants or not, he will be going in that direction. So here the Prophet says, the Quran says, Hatta إذا جاء أحدهم الموت قال ربي ارجعوني لعلي أعمل صالحا فيما تركت. When the death will come, what the people will say now. And this is something for us to take lesson. When that will حتى إذا جاء أحدهم الموت. One of you when the death comes. قال ربي يا Allah, when that comes, ارجعوني, make us go back. Oh Allah, give us a chance that we go back, and perhaps I amalu salihan. I do amal salih, which taraktu. Which I left. That's what anybody, whenever death comes, that's what people will ask. The verse is saying, the Quran is saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. So that means, as long as we live, we have to do amal salih. They ask Hayatullah Bahjat. There's the two terms, right? There is mukhlisin and mukhlasin. Mukhlisin is with a kasra. The amal salih is done by those who are mukhlasin, right? That's why I got reminded of. And there's mukhlasin. Mukhlasin means the righteous one or the purified ones by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallahi amma yusifun. Illa ibadallahi mukhlasun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be depicted. You cannot, give qualities to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Illa, except those who are mukhlasin, those who are the righteous one, purified by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they can say what is Joshan-e-Kabir. They can say how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in Joshan-e-Kabir. They can say how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in Saif-e-Sajjadiyah. They can give khutbahs of Tawheed because they are mukhlasin. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be described, cannot be depicted. No one can give qualities. Illa, Allah have given that permission to do so. So now, mukhlasin and mukhlisin. They ask Abajad, how a person could become mukhlasin. He said, you have to do the amal of mukhlisin. Meaning that, a person mukhlis who is purifying himself. I should have explained that. Mukhlasin is righteous one, purified by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And mukhlisin is the one who is trying to do good amal salih continuously in his life. So he says that if a person continuously tries to do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will purify him and make him purified. And as a matter of fact, even this amal mukhlis that I am trying to do, it is nothing but tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even this little good amal that I am doing, that I am here, that I am sitting, if it was no tawfiq, if it was no permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how could I have done that? So what I got to do is add up these good acts together, and obviously it becomes mukhlas, it will happen. So on every instance, let me explain. On every little instance, I, with my understanding, because I cannot see that divine sort of will and wish, I'm doing that good act. Even in reality, it is by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when I'm continuously doing that, eventually there will be nothing but the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala existing. So therefore, Amal Saleh, which it says here that when the death will come, the ahadakum, anybody, they will ask that, give us the time, that respite, that we go back. In another verse, it says on the day of judgment in Surah Hadid, when they will be raised and when they will be going towards the Jannah, there will be nur in front of them. In Surah Hadid it says, there will be nur in front of them. Because it was utter darkness. And there will be this light. With this light, they have to keep on going towards for mulaqi, for that meeting to take place. The stronger the light, the greater they will go. There will be some people, they will have this very sort of fluctuating small light bulbs. They will walk a bit, they will stop because they cannot see anything in front of them. And then it comes back, they walk a bit and they stop. So the verse of Hadith, it says that, those who are next to each other, one of them have a light, one of them don't have a light. It's a complete different stage. I mean, when we imagine light here, if I have a torch, the people who is next to me, he will see the torch as well. But over there is a different. There is a light, but this man is not benefiting from this light. Just like, for example, you have people who does the mad and tarif of Amirul Mu'mineen and recite majalis of Amirul Mu'mineen. But when it comes to accepting the wilayat of Amirul Mu'mineen, they say this is wilayat batini, but hukumat zahiri is with the khulafa. They are not seeing the true light. What is this zahir and batin? Huwa al-awwal, huwa al-akhir, huwa al-zahir, huwa al-batin. Say batin is something else, zahir is something else. The Quran says huwa al-awwal.